So before we get into this video, if you guys want to check out my feature film Pesadilla, you can. It's on Amazon right now. You can also check out the Blu-ray. Check out our link tree down below for all of our short films. They're on Gumroad. Pay what you want. It helps us make more projects. When Talk to Me came out, it's funny because I actually saw Talk to Me during production of Pesadilla. Me and a couple of the cast and crew, we saw the film, and I was very excited about it because I followed the Rocket Twins for a while. Michael and Danny Filippo.
Costas Filippo.
Filippo. I followed them for a while, and their skits, the stuff that they've done on YouTube in the past, they're something. So when I heard that they were making a horror film, Talk to Me, I was very intrigued because it's usually the people you would not expect to make horror films, and they've done a really good job of it. You know, you look at Jordan Peele, or you look at Zach Krager, who did Barbarian, and now he's doing Weapons. You know, it's usually people that you don't expect to make the really good horror films. And admittedly, when I first watched Talk to Me, it's kind of grown on me, but when I first watched it, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. It's not that I didn't like it. It was just I wasn't the biggest fan of it. There were moments in Talk to Me that I really, really loved. But overall, as a package, you know, I struggled with it. But again, it's grown on me, and I'm excited for the second one. So when I heard that they were coming out with another film and it was completely original, Bring Her Back, I was a little bit surprised because I thought Talk to Me 2 was supposed to be the next film. But I was also intrigued because I watched the trailer for it and I thought it was really good. There are trailers for films that just get me really excited for films, if that makes sense. And this was one of them. Now, the film stars Sally Hawkins, and I'm not familiar with the other actors because right here, I think it's Billy Barrett and Sora Wong. So the only actor that I'm familiar with is Sally Hawkins, which if you're not familiar with who she is, she's actually in a lot of stuff. You've probably seen her in a lot of things. She's in Paddington. She's in The Shape of Water. She's in Blue Jasmine. Now she's in Bring Her Back. And Bring Her Back is about a brother and sister. The sister, she has a disability where it's something with her sight. She can only see lights and shapes. And they find their father one day. He's passed, and they're staying with a foster mother. And without getting into any spoilers, because that's just basically the premise of the film, they stay with her, and she's a little bit uncanny. You know, she's a little bit strange. That's all I'll say. And there's some weird things going on at the house, specifically with a little boy that she's watching, you know, because she's a foster mother. And it takes a second for you to kind of realize what's going on. Like, they kind of throw you these little, these bones every now and then, and you got to try to piece things together. And it works for the most part. I will say it did get to a point where I was not necessarily confused, but I was just thinking, I was like, what are they trying to do with this? It's strange. It's like Talk to Me. It's strange, and I'm completely convinced. I love watching these twins make films. It's crazy. I don't want to say it's crazy because I don't know. I just feel like in their films I can sort of see elements from their skits, especially whenever, like, for instance, in Talk to Me, there's a drinking scene, reminded me so much of their earlier work on YouTube. And then there's another scene in this where people are drinking, and it reminds me, again, so much of their earlier work. And there's just certain things that happen, like outlandish things. There's one in specific with this where one thing I've noticed about their films with their set pieces is it can go from a 1 to like a 10 really quick. Like, if you want an example, their skit that they did with Ronald McDonald when he beats up the kid, it's like that, where you 1 second things are there and the next second things are like flipped on their head. And that's exactly what Bring Her Back does. Now, when it comes to Bring Her Back, I really can't decide if I like it better than Talk to Me because, in a sense, Bring Her Back is very, very simple. It's a lot smaller than Talk to Me. It's a very humble film. It's primarily set in one location, for the most part, in a house. And there are strange things happening, but for the most part, it's a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of, again, you know, it's build up to figuring out what's happening. And I've noticed a lot of the themes that they tackle in this are, you know, grief, loss. Again, like Talk to Me. But I want to give a shout out to their cinematography because their cinematography is the cinematography that I really like in films. there are films that have amazing cinematography. I mean, look, budget can definitely make your cinematography better than anybody else's. That's just true. Like, if your budget's high enough, you can do things with the camera that a lot of people can't. And it looks cool at times. For the most part, it kind of just blends in for the general audience. But for me, I notice films like these that are very simple, a lot of static shots, but also everything is in a shallow depth of field in this. It's almost like every single shot is specifically crafted, and they don't care to hold on a shot. They don't care to just show you coverage of specific points. Like, they're not trying to do anything crazy. You might get, for instance, the whole entire film is mainly you just see a character and everything else in the background is completely out of focus. And that might be something that you see in maybe a period piece film where you're trying to kind of conceal some things in the background that you otherwise might not be able to. But for this, it really does work because it makes everybody feel isolated. And I think I've kind of figured out that when it comes to, cinematography like that, I almost prefer it these days. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a really good wide, shot film. I mean, it's kind of my favorite way to shoot as well, is really wide. But I also love those films that are really wide, that have a shallow depth of field, where you're putting your subject in focus for most of the, for most of the time that you see them, or maybe you have a certain object in focus, because it kind of feels like, in a way, it's storytelling. They're telling you this story. It's almost like, you're sitting by a campfire and somebody's explaining certain moments where you're forced to look at a certain object. You're forced to look at a certain piece of this puzzle, which in this case is the film. And it works extremely well. I love the cinematography for this film. I love the overall direction for it. Did a really, really good job. It's just like Talk to Me, where even though Talk to Me might not have sat well with me, I know it did with a lot of people, but I think I'm just more so impressed with the technical elements of the way that, they make their films. Everything just sort of seems to stand out, and that's what I really like. Also, there's some pretty creepy visual imagery in this. Like, I don't want to say it's more tame than Talk to Me, because they might be on the same level. But again, there's some pretty, like I said, outlandish things that go on in it. But there are some scenes in this that genuinely made me squirm. There were two in particular, and then there was one that actually got me, which involves a mirror and the little boy. And I like the execution of the film. I really do. And I'm excited to see what they do next. I really like these original horror stories that they're kind of putting out there, and they're not trying to, emulate anybody else. They're not trying to. They're genuinely pretty exclusive to themselves. I think that the way that they approach their filmmaking is pretty exclusive to them, and I'm here for it. I really like it. But yeah, Bring Her Back. I liked it. Personally, thought it was really good. Kind of got me more excited for Talk to Me too, and and that's crazy because it's not even the first Talk to Me, and it's another film that gets me excited for it. But yeah, really enjoyed it. You guys should definitely check it out. It's an original horror film. It's it's very simple, very small, but I like it. It definitely in a way takes a step back from Talk to Me, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I love filmmakers that do that, because sometimes you kind of have to, or you're really just doing it because it's the best for the story. They could have easily have taken this and asked for a huge budget, and like, hey, look at Talk to Me, we did this, we want to do that, and then made something, but they didn't. They did something that I think was very humble. They did something that I think is definitely going to find a following, and I think people are going to like it. I think it'd be a good date movie. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a thumbs up and maybe subscribe. Take it easy. Check out my links down below. See you next time.